Bangladesh Today. I am MUGHDA KAPOOR. The Bangladeshi Parliament has amended the strong anti-terrorism law which redefines terrorism and one which allows the judiciary to recognize internet matter as proof. The Khaleda Zia-led opposition BNP has fervently opposed this move, calling the proposed new law as a black law. A report.
The anti-terrorism law was first passed in 2009 when the current Awami League had taken over office after the December 2008 elections, while it was amended last year, integrating some provisions. The recently amended law provides for capital punishment for terrorism and seditious activities depending upon the seriousness of the crimes. Reportedly, officials who are well known with the outline of the law said that the new bill, which now awaits regular presidential acquiescence, was also required to overcome few faults, predominantly in areas of interstate cooperation.
Well, you see, this is a law point. It's a very technical point. It depends on what the law of the land says, as you're talking in terms of terrorism. Well, these pictures in the video, pictures in the internet, they can be morphed, they can be manipulated. I mean, a lot of angles are there to it. So on what context this news is coming up, actually, one has to be very clear. What is the background to it? We have to go through the background. But on the face of it, I personally feel a mature country like India will think number of times before it even ventures into making an amendment like that. Because it can sort of become counterproductive in maintaining law and order and maintaining the law of the land. So I personally feel that this is a very, law point of view is a very technical question, which probably very astute lawyer and a lawyer of a very, very old standing, high standing can answer this question. But on the face of it, let me tell you one thing. It is well known that the video clips can be adjusted, modified, manipulated, morphed, all those things. So one may not be able to do justice.
Sir, you are on the side of that it will be misused.
Well, it can be misused. There's no doubt about it. There will be the chances. Otherwise, why is it not accepted in our law? Exactly. So you see, our people think when they make law, though it may seem that law, Qanun, law is blind. No, it's not blind. It balances everything, and has to see. It sees both sides of the thing. A cutting edge can cut you also. So that you have to be very careful. It's a double-edged sword. So that.
Sir, do you feel these new amendments pose a threat to human rights of citizens?
Obviously. Not only on the face of it, actually. In fact, when you make laws like this, then a lot of privacy has, a question of privacy, violation of privacy, personal rights, etc. All these things come into play. How these are going to be used now? I mean, an organization like Gestapo probably will be very happy to use it. But I don't think a democracy like India will even think about it. So.
Under this amendment, the police officer concerned can instantly apprise the district magistrates about the incidence of a crime that comes under the purview of this law and can also file cases against the accused people. Some provisions in this law also include comprehensive powers to law enforcers and the central bank to impound and seize properties and bank accounts of a suspect without earlier permission from the court to check terror financing.
See, we have to understand why this amendment has been carried out to the 2009 Act of Bangladesh against the terrorist activities. Internet is now being used to propagate terrorism. Internet is now being used to indoctrinate people, to train them. And so therefore, internet is a very important source and a dynamic source also for evidence against terrorist and criminal acts and activities. So, when the nature, the extent, and the interconnectedness in regard to terrorist activities have increased manifold. So therefore, the action against terrorist activities, they would also need to be located through newer evidence base, and internet can be effective to a large extent. It is of course possible that this might be misused, or it is also possible that the proof sourced from the internet would not be foolproof, and so therefore it will be required and it will be a necessity to use these sources in a most ethical way. But we cannot discount the use of internet based material to arrive at and to help and aid the investigation process, and as supporting evidence also to prosecute those who are guilty of terrorist activities. The Bangladesh government has thought over the pros and cons, I would believe, while carrying out this amendment, and Bangladesh is now one of the frontline states where terrorist acts and activities are being fought. The most important of the countries where terrorist activities are taking a heavy toll includes Iraq and Pakistan and Bangladesh. So therefore, this effort of the Bangladesh, though it might draw some flack, it might draw some criticism, or it might seem to be against civil liberties and human rights and so on, but the intention is, I suppose, to fight out the terrorists.
A recent study has positioned Bangladesh at 39 among 158 countries as far as impact of terrorism was concerned. The Global Terrorism Index showed Iraq at the top of the list with a score of 9.56 points, followed by Pakistan, Afghanistan and India. According to the study, there had been 6 incidents of terrorist attacks in Bangladesh since 2001, causing 3 deaths with 4 casualties, and the level of property damage was rated at 2. The index ranks 158 countries over the past 10 years, of which only 31 have not experienced a terrorist attack since the year 2001.
However, the opposition BNP has vehemently slammed the amendments and boycotted Parliament when the law was tabled in the House. They termed it as a black legislation and one which was meant to target them. But the question which arises is, why is the BNP and its ally the Jamaat-e-Islami nervous about the tough new provisions in the law when all countries are strengthening counter-terror laws?
While moving the bill in the House, Home Minister Muhyiddin Khan Alamgir had said that the amended law was for making Bangladesh's Anti-Terrorist Act of 2009 consistent with the UN resolutions on terrorism. On the other hand, the BNP said it was unclear why the government came up with such a harsh anti-terrorism law, especially with the prevalence of so many laws. The BNP then even went to the extent of saying that this law would turn Bangladesh into a violent police state and it would misuse this law to suppress the voice of the opposition. But the strong rejection of the law by the BNP does raise questions, especially if one considers the allegations of terror financing and Islam banking which have been levelled against the BNP's ally, the Jamaat-e-Islami.
Yeah, it will apparently seem so, but then I've already explained that this must be used with, keeping into consideration the ethical standards, and this can be supportive evidence. And I do not think that it will be tantamount to curtailment of human rights. What it might happen, that there is a lot of people who would be suspected, but then I suppose that the proof of burden would not only be from the internet sources, it would be quite a mix of sources. This can be a supportive evidence, and then of course it can give and help the investigators to get some lead. BNP and Jamaat, they are opposition political parties. In fact, I don't find any move of the present government which these political parties have supported, and in fact the type of polarization that has happened in Bangladesh is extraordinary. It is not needed, not necessary, but then this has happened. But then Overall, the Sheikh Hasina government is steadfast in its commitment to fight against terrorism and militant activities and extremists of all types. This also helps and benefits by India, or for that matter the civilized countries, and so therefore from that standpoint, irrespective of what the BNP and Jamaat may say, the point is that this act and action is going to strengthen the hand of the law enforcement machinery in Bangladesh and all those who are committed to fight against the menace of terrorism.
It's a well-known fact that the intensification of Islamic fundamentalism is complicatedly linked to the funding militants get from their financiers and sympathizers. One significant feature in this regard has been the part played by the ever-expanding Islamic banking sector. So, with the strict new amendment of intense scrutiny on bank accounts of suspects, it's bound to make the Jamaat-e-Islami and its accomplices a bit jittery. The terrorizing role of Jamaat-e-Islami in the 1971 liberation war of the country is documented, and even though a war crimes tribunal was set up in 2010, which was mandated to prosecute the guilty, the suspect activities of the Jamaat and its splinter groups have continued. Bangladesh academician Nazma Shahi has called for the banning of the Jamaat-e-Islami and blamed the organization for insulting Islam and spreading terror. She also slammed the outfit for the wartime atrocities committed during the 1971 liberation war.
We have seen a violence phase of the Jamaat-e-Islami.
I think it is nothing new. During liberation war, these Islamic militant and fanatic groups, they also blamed the freedom fighters that they are dividing the Pakistans, and they always behave like this. That's why in 14th December they killed our intellectuals and our main forces who will build the new Bangladesh. So I think it is nothing new. It is always these fundamentalist groups behave like this in this area. And when the young forces in Shabak Chattor, they organized a movement against this war crime, delayed of the war crime verdict, and there is some which is not actually the people's desire, that we are waiting for this verdict for almost 42 years. So this time they also try to use the sentiment of the general people, ignorant people, because in this reason the ignorant people are very much obliged to the religion, and they use that sentiment.
The Sheikh Hasina-led Awami League government has consistently maintained that it will not bow down to the violence and terror of the hardline Islamists, and that there will be zero tolerance against such elements. Also, Bangladesh has seen a noteworthy transformation in the past few years, with the administration conducting unrelenting operations against militant groups and violent activities in the state, and this new law, the government says, is a part of its stringent anti-terror policy. Despite the presence of terror groups such as the Harkat-ul-Jihad al-Islami Bangladesh and their adherents, the administration, using limited resources, has somehow managed to keep itself from falling victim to the jihadi terror agenda.
The Bangladeshi government has on its part introduced a very tough anti-terrorism law. Whether it would be arbitrarily misused to suppress genuine dissenting voices and put human rights under threat is an important question. More on that in the coming episodes. Thank you for watching Bangladesh Today.